Hello, everybody. My name is Ethan, and this is Dr. Sasha Blaskovich with me here today. And we are the co authors of Dr. B's Concussion Breakthrough, where we break down the impacts of the neck injury and how that influences post concussion symptoms. Dr. B wanted to do a little video today about the Patrick Mahomes injury because it's a very interesting injury, and a lot of people thought that he had a concussion. But Dr. B has some very unique insights about the injury that he wanted to share today. So we'll switch over to the screen share here and we'll watch the injury.
Yeah, so when you watch the slow-mo here, it's quite interesting, this next segment. As you can see here, he's definitely had his vestibular system and his coordination control system, being the cerebellum and the lower part of the brainstem, affected by this. And when they go into the slow motion replay here, so if you watch, Wilson comes in, grabs onto his collar, has his forearm under his chin and jaw, and then as he pulls on him here, basically Mahomes' neck gets traction as his head is being flexed down, which puts more tension in the back of the neck, aka where the spinal cord and brainstem are. And so this moment here, Mahomes' body's going in one direction and his head and neck get pulled in the opposite direction, resulting in this traction force. And then what that does is it tractions his spinal cord and his brainstem at the level of the coordination center for balance and being upright and then coordination. And so it's very similar to a person having their arm pulled on really forcefully and having the nerves in their arm coming out of their neck get tractioned on, resulting in the zinger and the pins and needles in the hand and fingers. And so this is the same thing, except this is affecting the central nervous system, where it coordinates his balance and ability to function upright. And you can see that as he stands up, he's uncoordinated and his eyes are wonky. He's not able to focus. And that's so right here, he taps his head lightly. And one could say maybe he had a coup contra coup, acceleration, deceleration of his brain in there. But ultimately, that's possible. But I think the more plausible explanation is the fact that he had his head and neck pulled on while it was being rotated a little bit to the left, with the forearm under his chin. And so that traction his brainstem and upper spinal cord, resulting in the effects that you see when he tries to stand up. And so concussion or neck injury or what have you, it affected his central nervous system. And I think based on the fact how he came back a week after this and played a really good game, the likelihood that he sustained a permanent concussive blow here is very low, but the likelihood that it was a very forceful but not permanent debilitating brainstem spinal cord traction injury is very probable, and it looks like he'll probably heal quite well, barring him continue to have any symptoms over the coming weeks and months of headache, brain fog, irritability, focus, and things like that. I think he'll be perfectly fine after this. Again, barring the progression or continuance of any symptoms, at which point in time it would be very essential to assess his upper neck with motion x-ray to determine whether or not any ligaments have been damaged in that event there, versus that his brain ended up sloshing around inside his skull, because it's very unlikely that that happened with this game footage.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you can see when he falls down first, he taps his head on the field, and then you can see the rest of his body essentially get yanked from the neck forward, as we can see right here.
And Wilson's just basically trying to wrap him up and hold on and make sure that he tackles him and that he stays down. And Wilson's momentum takes Mahomes in that direction, while Mahomes' legs are trying to go in a different direction. So this hyperflexion of Mahomes' head and neck, paired with the traction and the slight rotation of Mahomes' neck to the left, because Wilson has his collar there and he's just pulling, basically, results in this traction injury that occurred here. And really, Mahomes would be the only one to be able to validate that and how he felt on this moment. But this is what it looks like to me.
Cool. Is there anything else with regards to this injury that you want to share in this video?
Like I said, I mean, if he's resolved and based on the week after, it looks like he has it in the Super Bowl. Didn't look like there were any lasting effects of that. The likelihood that this has caused some permanent damage is very minimal. But if it did, he'll know that over the coming next few months. And if that is the case, it's pertinent that his upper neck gets assessed for ligament damage in order to basically delineate his susceptibility and risk for this reoccurring with a smaller or less forceful event than this one, and so that the precautions can be taken or the proper rehab can be taken to try to minimize or mitigate that happening and the severity of it happening as well.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Sasha Blaskovich, for sharing your inputs and your knowledge about this strange injury that happens where everyone thought it was a concussion, but when you actually look at the game footage, he didn't really hit his head that hard. So
no, and the symptoms are very similar. I mean, we call it concussion, and that's I think it's becoming a very loose definition, and so this encompasses that. But by traditional definition, concussion would require a blow to the head and some kind of a more forceful event relating to the head. And this is definitely not the case of that. There's momentum involved here, acceleration, deceleration, but it's I think of a neurological traction injury versus a compressive blowing injury like you would with a traditional concussion type of event.
awesome. Well, thank you.
It's my pleasure.